Thank you, and thanks for letting me kind of be the one to ask the questions instead of answer questions this morning. That's always better. My name's Phil King, and we had a great ALEC border trip. I guess, was it April that we did that? And the whole idea was we just wanted everyone to kind of get this concept from around the country that really it's not just a Texas problem, it's not just an Arizona problem, it's not just a California problem. It is that every state truly is a border state. And before we begin to talk about it, I always want to say this whenever we're mentioning the border. The struggles we're having have nothing at all to do with race. They have nothing at all to do with ethnicity. This is all about securing our borders. It's about crime, and it's about trying to manage the influx of people into our country. That's what it's about. It's not about race. It's not about who people are. It's really not even about where they come from in most cases. So with that said, I will tell you that Texas has had a terrible time, really for decades now, but particularly the last 4 years. We've averaged probably arresting 1 million to 1.5 million each of the last 4 years. Those are people that come from every nation in the world. A lot of places where people don't like us. We used to joke that North Korea was the one nation that because it's blacked out, that we didn't have anyone. Now we've had some people from North Korea get through. So literally every nation in the world. There is effectively no government in northern Mexico. I've got a missionary friend who since left because of safety issues, but he told me, he said, Phil, even when there's a traffic accident, the police don't show up and work those in northern Mexico. The cartels show up and they move the cars out of the way and clear the intersection. I mean, there is no government there. It is the international drug and human trafficking cartels, which are evil and violent and incredibly well trained and funded. That's northern Mexico. So we've arrested about 1 million people a year. You can pretty well double in any case the number that are actually coming across because of all the getaways. We're estimating 11 million enter the United States in the last 4 years. That's probably a low estimate. But even at 11 million, guys, that's twice the population of the state of Colorado. Think about that, just in the last 4 years. The drug aspects, I know that we have seized, just Texas, over 500 million lethal doses of fentanyl just at the Texas border. And we're just getting the scraps of what come through. The stories, as Lisa mentioned, are horrible. Dallas newspaper this Sunday, I noticed, they announced that an article that just in Dallas, they had 14 arrests just in June of illegal aliens for sexual assaults on minors. Just in Dallas, 14. Typical situation, you'll see our state police. This is a common story, happens virtually every day. They pull a car over. One instance I'm thinking of, they were down at the border, they pull a car over because it's got a lot of people in it. 8 men jump out, they all take off running. They open the trunk, there's 2 little children in there not attached to those 8 people. Those kids were being taken, they were to be used for sexual trafficking. Women and kids and young boys funneled into that, not just in Texas, but funneled all across the country. One unique thing that's a new trend that we've really just started seeing in the last few years is the tens of thousands, if you've got a military background, divisions of single military-age men coming from Russia and China. And you don't have to be much of an intelligence expert to kind of think about what that might be leading to. So we can go on and on with stories, and I can talk all day about it. And my friends, other members from Texas here, this is a real passion for all of us because it's such a huge issue for all of us. But I did want to talk to y'all, and I wanted to ask first, so you came to Eagle Pass, and if you remember, folks, Eagle Pass, Fox News, CNN, whatever you watch, well, not CNN because they don't cover it, but Fox News, Newsmax, whatever it is. For the last year, Eagle Pass had been really the epicenter for you saw the people backed up miles into the border. You came to Eagle Pass in April. Just wanted to ask, what did you see there that you were not expecting? What surprised you? What was counter to what you expected to see, having kind of just set back from your states and not actually physically been on the border? Matt, you want to start us?
Sure. Yeah, and thank you for hosting us, Senator King and Lisa and
pleasure.
Alec. It was a real good opportunity for us. We got to fly a helicopter over the Rio Grande there. We saw some illegals crossing the border. And I'll say what surprised me when we talked to the Border Patrol, because Senator King and the Texas Department of Public Safety showed us these charts. And essentially what the chart said was when President Trump was there, the border crossings were down. And then when Biden came in, the border crossings surged. And so we asked them why. And they said the number one thing was that President Biden repealed the Remain in Mexico policy. So what surprised me was they crossed the border, and we saw this happen. They get apprehended, and most people just assume they get apprehended. Okay, well, they send them across the border. No. Under Biden, what they do is they check to see, are you a hardened criminal? Are you a felon? And if you're not, then they basically write you a ticket to appear in court and then release you into the country. What they told us was it takes minimum 6 years to get a hearing. So what happens is, under Biden, they release you into the U.S., and then they disappear. They told us you're told to call when you reach your final destination.
Good luck.
And they said, like, what, 3% do that? And you wonder, who are those guys, right? But a lot of them come to Michigan because we have sanctuary policies in Michigan. And I think your governor buses them to those sanctuary communities.
I checked, we've actually bused 18,600 to Denver.
Wow.
Sorry, Colorado.
Oh boy, watch out. But anyway, that to me was the most telling thing that with a federal government that is doing that, it really is a responsibility of states to step up and fill the void. And it's great to see what the state of Texas is doing among other states. So that was what I learned on the trip.
Right. Demi?
So a couple of things. I think the first thing that you notice when you arrive there is the amount of clothing that is stuck in the fencing there. And they explained to us that they layer up in clothing or blankets or whatever they can find to try and get through that fencing, and then they leave it there all tied up in the fencing and in the wire there, and it's unbelievable. Or they'll change their clothes because their clothes are soaked from crossing over. And I think you don't fully appreciate until you see it in person how close it really is and how low the water levels can be sometimes as well. The numbers are astounding as well, and I know Senator King, you mentioned, but this was the thing that stuck out to me the most was the tens of thousands of Chinese and Russian-aged military men that are crossing over this border. And I think that's a number that's often lost in the messaging or when we talk about the crisis happening at the border.
Great. Jeremy?
Really, two major things stuck out to me. The first was just how organized and well-funded the traffickers were. You had the drones flying on the southern side of the border, and you had the fishermen line of sight along the border, and how organized that effort was just right there. The other thing that's probably more impactful is the stark difference between how Texas was handling the border versus Customs and Border Patrol. And in conversations with some of your heads of DPS, that when Texas took over Eagle Pass, that the crossings at that point dropped 95%. And then as they were dealing with the migrants, that it was because they were looking for the green uniforms of Customs and Border Patrol, and that how disconnected the barriers were, right? Where you had control of it, you had some buoys and fencing, and then you'd get to a blank piece of ground that was federal ground against it, and it was just wide open. And it was just unbelievable to me that the difference in how that was handled between you as a state of Texas. I'm so proud of what Texas is doing to help protect us, but those were probably the two starkest things that disconnected from my expectation.
It is a major undertaking. I think we'll spend $3.2 billion this fiscal year, and we've got the same amount budgeted for next fiscal. We've installed 5,000 monitoring cameras. We have gunboats. We have shallow draft boats that y'all rode in. We have rotary aircraft, which y'all rode in, fixed wing aircraft. We've got thousands of personnel down there. It's a major undertaking. Some of the states, particularly Florida, have sent us help. Florida State Guard is down there in strong force. So your states, what are y'all looking at doing, or what have you done, or what are you thinking about? Because your state is now a border state.
Well, I guess you want me to start and go back your way?
Yeah, sure.
The one thing Kansas did, I'm very proud of my Kansas colleagues that are here. We, of course, looking back, I was humbled and a little bit embarrassed by. We put $15 million in the Kansas budget, right, to send Guard down to help Texas specifically, and that was generated. I mean, we wanted Texas. That goes to my prior point that Texas is doing it right? So we wanted to be there helping Texas. We had to override a veto just to put that little bit. You spend the billions to protect us. We put $15 million in, and we were able to override a veto and be able to put help down there. And that's thanks to right out here. Ours is a struggle. We see it, right? We're awash in fentanyl. We have all the consequences. The only thing we were able to actually do, we have divided government, right? I have a Democrat governor that isn't real interested in helping there. And so we did get a bill. We had a local entity try to issue municipal IDs so you could have illegal immigrants voting, and we were able to pass that and get that done. But we have so much more we need to do, and so grateful for what Texas is doing.
Have you heard of Martha's Vineyard? No. In addition to that, we've sent, as you mentioned, our Florida State Guard. We actually have a representative here attending ALEC this week that had joined the Florida State Guard, and he was stationed over at the border for a few months. We sent our Florida Highway Patrol, which I had the opportunity to meet quite a few of them that were there when we went down for the tour. We've sent our Fish and Wildlife Commission officers. We've sent FDLE officers. So we've definitely sent people out there to help and assist, but whatever it is, it's not enough. And the unfortunate reality is that the federal government is not stepping up. They're not doing what they should be doing, and Texas has taken the lead on this. And I'm grateful that we've done what we've done, but it's still not enough. And we need to make sure that every state is not only sending the people that are necessary to help protect all of America, but also pass policies that make it harder for these people to come to your state, okay? So we can't just leave it up to Texas.
Matt?
Well, I mentioned the sanctuary cities and counties in Michigan, and but I will tell you, I came back and I actually did brief Governor Whitmer, our governor in Michigan, on the trip. And I give her credit. She sat there and intently listened to me for about 5 minutes, and I was reading off all the statistics. She's a good politician, so she faked it, right? But she looked, and I love your Florida State Guard, by the way. They're great. And these smart states, like Texas and Florida, they're creating, and Texas has had it the whole time, these state guards, so Biden and Harris can't federalize them, which is really smart, so they serve under the direction of their leader. But your Florida State Guard, I told them I'm from Michigan, they said, the only free person in Michigan is Gretchen Whitmer's husband during the lockdown. So I like your Guard, they're good. And it's true, by the way.
I might be biased, but.
Yeah, but I'll say this. What Whitmer's solution was is, well, if Joe Biden and the border czar, Kamala Harris, ask our National Guard to come down to the border, we'll send them. And we said, that is not acceptable. And we saw that in Eagle Pass. And I think the most telling thing in Eagle Pass was, there was a stretch there when we were on the helicopter that was federal land. That was the only area that didn't have fencing. So you look at what the state of Texas is leading down there, the three things they're doing. They're building fencing, they're patrolling the border, and they're doing search and rescue missions. And by the way, the media lies about that, but that's what they're doing. And so we saw them doing that, and then you see, Governor Abbott talked about this at the convention. The Biden solution and the Harris solution is they're suing the state of Texas. And they're saying, take down your border fencing. And Senator King and his lieutenant governor, Daniel Patrick, told us, we said, why don't you come down here, Kamala Harris, and tear it down yourself? And they haven't come down. And so that fencing, and I think your governor said, we're going to put up more fencing. And so that's fenced. They have buoys there in the water to try to deter people. And then in this federal stretch, it's unpatrolled completely. That is the difference between the state's approach and the federal approach. And that's why Governor Whitmer has it wrong. Instead, we need to send our National Guard down to Texas under the direction of your governor, Governor Abbott, and start patrolling the border and securing it under your leadership.
Good. You know, I think part of trying to get our governors and our leaders in other states to understand is that this aspect of they really are a border state. You know, you see the thousands and thousands of young kids come across. A lot of them unattended, and we know where they end up a lot of times, and it's horrible. But, you know, every 500 kids that come across, somebody's got to build a new elementary school. The attacks on your health care services, the way that the underground labor actually brings down the actual cost of labor, brings down wages in your state from what competition would be when there's this underground labor force that's working there in the shadows. It goes on. What are y'all seeing in your state directly to your public schools or to your health care settings? What are you seeing hit?
Real quick. So, number one thing that we talked about this in Texas, is the drug crisis, and the fentanyl is coming across from China. Your law enforcement briefed us that China is manufacturing this, and they're bringing it across the border through not Texas anymore. But it used to be Texas, and so as soon as you put your forces there on the Texas border, the drug cartels stop coming through. They're smart enough to know we don't want to come through and mess with the Department of Public Safety of Texas.
They would rather lose people than the drugs when they're coming across.
Yep. But for us, that's the biggest thing, and it's touching all of our states. And we've seen deaths in Michigan and deaths in all your states every day from the fentanyl crisis. That's where it's coming from. We had President Trump and J.D. Vance in Michigan Saturday, and J.D. Vance talks about, our kids, they're going to make mistakes. We should have a community where if they make a mistake, it's safe and it's not going to cost them their lives. And yet a lot of these kids are getting these pills, they think it's something else, and it contains a lethal dose of fentanyl. It ends their lives and it ruins the lives of their families. And so, that's what we're fighting for at securing the border. We've had a number of murders and sexual assaults committed by illegal aliens in Michigan and sanctuary counties and cities and elsewhere. And that's why the states, if the federal government's not going to do it, the states need to step up and secure the border.
Well, I know we're out of time. I want to thank Alec for giving us some time this morning to talk about this. I want to thank everyone who came down to the border. And as you leave today, grab that bumper sticker and put it on your desk on the floor at the Capitol. I'm sure that will be approved. And but just remember, please, every state is a border state. So thank you.